Long time no see. It is. How are you?
Thank you.
And how is Pita? Pino. He's good?
It's very good.
Yeah. He has the most beautiful German Shepherd and also the largest dog I've ever encountered.
Yeah, you better be a
Get out of the
or
car,
else.
comes and it's like, whoa.
They're intimidating.
Yeah.
Very, very friendly.
Yeah.
Thank you. friendly.
Hi, Gail, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Great, yes,
Good.
excellent.
Okay. Do we have everyone?
We do, I believe.
All right. All right, let's call the meeting to order at 4:01. I'm Gail Bruin. Can we go around for roll call?
Matt Hamel.
Dave Spencer.
Jennifer Kaufman, Director of Planning and Development. Jillian Woodmansee, Planner.
Sandy Foran, Administrative Assistant.
Ed.
Ed Matthews, agenda item 1.
Hi, welcome.
And then we have Michael Stankoff, who's
Yes,
from
hi.
our planner.
Good to see you.
Item.
Pleasure to see
Yep.
you as well, Gail.
Thanks. Okay, let's move to approving our minutes from our last meeting. If we could have a motion, if everyone's had a chance to look at those to approve.
So moved.
A second.
And any discussion there? If
No.
not, let's all in favor.
Aye.
Okay, great. Those are approved. Then on to old business. We've got the bylaws that I talked to Jolene that we think we'll table for now because I know we were going to do a little more work on those and I didn't have a chance to do that. If everyone is okay with that.
Can I just, sounds like
Yeah,
we're
Matt.
gonna some between meeting conversations perhaps. And I think the first time we looked at these, we were a little puzzled by the disqualification section.
Yes.
In my experience, my whole career working for not-for-profits, you have conflict of interests
Mhm.
rules, which are sometimes a little vague, but the concept of conflict of interest is something that people are familiar with.
Mhm.
And I think that's what we're talking about here. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So this term disqualification seems a little bit out of place. Now, I say this because recognizing that I think this is kind of boilerplate for the town, right? Kind of.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you could also use the word recusal. Right?
Okay.
Is another
Right.
word that tends to get used if you believe you have a conflict of interest on a certain application, you would recuse yourself.
Right.
So that would be another sort of synonym.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
right, but it flows from conflict of interest. Which
Yeah.
isn't really the concept of having a conflict of interest is not explicitly stated here.
I think there's something that's a town-wide
There's a code of ethics.
description of that
There-
includes that I read years and years ago.
I think this disqualification gets to sort of define what a conflict of interest is. So you're disqualified if you are representing any person, firm, or corporation or other entity in any manner pending before the commission. So these are sort of, I kind of outline where there could be a conflict of interest
Right.
and the kind, because the conflict of interest, that's kind of, I think this sort of makes conflict of interest when the reasons for disqualification or recusal, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
more explicit.
Well, also, I think recusal is the word to use because the person can continue to listen to the conversation. They just don't vote. And the other issue that I'm familiar with nonprofits is when we consider a new topic, for instance, the signage for the town, we begin that conversation with, does anyone have a conflict of interest?
Right.
Right,
That is the normal procedure with other nonprofits that I'm involved with.
Yeah, agreed.
Well,
So if would everyone feel more comfortable if we
Uh,
used a different word other than disqualification?
like you.
Yeah,
need
I
to-
definitely don't like disqualification.
Okay,
You need to recuse your, I mean, it is ultimately, according to our attorney, it's up to any person whether or not they decide to recuse themselves. But here's, you know, here it says where disqualification is questionable, the chair shall make the final decision.
Right.
So, yeah, so the
I-
main things is that you don't like the word disqualification, you
It-
prefer recusal. And then,
for conflict of interest.
yeah.
Because you have a
recusal-
conflict,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah,
we can.
I mean, I
put
think
that.
that's the standard way people look at it,
Yeah.
and there's always interpretation,
Right.
Yep,
right?
always.
At the Supreme
So,
Court.
yeah, but so when I read this, thinking about today's agenda, so Ed is a neighbor and a friend. So do I have a conflict of interest?
No, you don't, because we are not opining on anything. We are not voting on anything. We are here for discussion. And no, you don't have a conflict in regard to that.
So if Ed comes next meeting with a application, do I have a conflict of interest?
I would think not in a small town where so many people know people, then everybody could be recused and, you know.
Yeah.
I kind of
Yeah.
think that's right, but
So are you a direct abutter?
no,
Okay, but you live in the neighborhood?
2 houses away.
Okay.
Yeah, so it says when it's questionable, the chair shall make the final decision. So if Gail has all the facts and Gail believes that it is not a conflict of interest, she would state that for the record, that would be in the minutes and.
That sounds precisely like. a
Okay,
conflict
good.
of Interest consideration.
Yep,
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay, that sounds
that's
good.
for future. Okay,
Great.
thank you for a little bit of a diversion there.
so we will make that change and we will put a new updated version in your packet for next month.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Thanks.
In the 8.1.
Yep.
Still refers to a biennial review of our annual organization meeting.
Yep, I have to fix that.
Yep,
to
thanks.
Annual, right?
Yep,
I will fix that as well.
I'm done.
Okay, and then I'm not sure what the next item is.
Yep, so I
Okay.
can explain a little bit. So the town manager puts out a monthly newsletter.
yeah,
So we thought since we did the mailer, we thought it would be a good way to also get this information out townwide. I did a very, very condensed version of the mailer with just some of the high points from it.
Super.
I did put in the current project of the general store and the picture. I kind of sent it off in draft and I haven't really heard what happened since then.
so I did a few tweaks,
Yeah.
and usually they have to be really concise. And then Margaret Chady, our communication specialist, since it's the manager's newsletter, she works with him to do the final. But basically, it's short and sweet. Hey, we're the Historic District Commission. It's very similar to what you wrote, and you know what your charge is.
Mhm.
I think
Super.
we mentioned that there's vacancies.
And 3 historic districts. It was just very bare bones.
Yeah,
Okay,
to get the
Yeah,
word
just
out.
to get the word out.
okay,
And
that sounds fine.
this happens every other month.
Right.
So it's a really nice way to,
Okay.
another avenue to educate the public about the work you're doing.
I like them. I
Okay.
don't know about anybody else. They're long,
They're
but
long.
They're very
Yeah.
long.
How are they distributed? How are they distributed?
They're distributed, there's an e-newsletter and you have to sign up to get the link. So basically, like you go on sign up for notifications on the website and that's how you get it.
Okay,
Yeah. it's,
okay.
but it's very informative.
Um,
Let you
Somebody reads
right.
it. Yeah. You can tell your colleague. somebody
Yeah.
reads it.
We're on to new business. And Edward, would you like to talk to us about your plans for 19 Center Street?
Let's prepare some show and tell stuff.
Great.
Told to make 6 of these, but I guess we only need 5.
Be happy. Yep, it'd be hard to get Gail to see it.
Yeah.
with,
Yeah,
um,
maybe you can describe.
Yeah,
Open up to the camera.
yeah.
I wonder,
I'm wondering if we could,
oh,
Nice
scan
and you then grab them.
If you're gonna do that, I should email you the originals. It's a lot better.
yeah, that's okay. All right, well, let's go through it, and then if we need to pull up a picture of your house, Ed, for Gail, we can do it through GIS.
Yeah, no, I know the house. Yeah,
Okay,
so
yep.
I'm okay there. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I came to you before about a door. 3, 4
Yes.
years ago.
Yes, good.
Okay, yeah, this concerns 19 Center Street, formerly known as the Fitz Buchanan House. If you open up and look at the first is just this is from this book that was published by the Historical Society.
Yep.
Again, not a great copy of it. But I brought this in case you want to look more at a clearer picture. But you can sort of make out, this is pretty much the same porch that I'm talking about. This is on the west side. And it's obviously been there for a while. I do not have any information on whether it might be original to the house in 1848. I don't think the picture was taken here. This is just the date of the house. But you get an idea. It runs the entire length of the west side of the house. So I had it measured and it was out what it was, but I'm guessing 50-ish feet.
Yeah.
Then the next,
We hold it closer to the camera. Would you be able to see it, Gail?
Yeah, I'm really not getting much from
Yeah.
that. but- Oh, that helps. Thanks, Matt. Yeah,
So that's the
okay,
full- that's the full length of the west side of the house.
okay.
yeah, and the color one is the current. I just took them a couple days ago.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, and what I would like just to propose is basically to take it down and replace it.
Mhm.
As I said, I don't know if it's original, but it's obviously quite old. It's on the house already in this picture, which must have been the turn of the century at the latest.
And replace it with like materials? What,
As close as
Any-
I can, yeah, I mean, I would like to do that anyways. Apart from any rules and regulations of the commission, I'd like to restore it originally as possible. So that would be wood floors, wood floor, metal roof.
What are these, what are the poles made of? Are they wood?
Yeah.
Those are wood?
Mhm.
With the wood? Oh, I thought they were
Yeah,
metal.
they look metal, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the whole length of it from dead
Yeah.
on. Then I got, the next two are basically from each end.
Yep. Here, Gail, this is a close-up of the posts, if you can see them. Can you see that?
oh, yes, okay, yeah. They're round or rectangular?
Yeah, Joanne.
Oh.
They're rectangular.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
Would you be putting it at exactly the same level or? I noticed that it looks like it might be a fairly high step out of the door.
A little bit. And I think the level rises a tad from the south to the north. So the street is the south side.
Right.
Um,
Because it's very close to the ground for wood framing. Because you can't get at it.
yeah, and that's the thing, the floor itself is not so bad despite its age, but everything underneath is completely rotted out.
Yeah,
It's currently on fairly square stone, but I know code now is to put those big pylons in, I think, so I
Feel
have
like
to
the
do
sonotubes?
that.
Yeah, you saw it.
I'm sorry.
A sonotube.
Sonotube,
Yeah.
yeah.
you would be able to put in a sonotube and put the stones on top of it. And it would look much better. And that's perfectly legal.
So I
Yeah,
can
you just-
reuse the same stones I have.
Right,
Yeah.
but you support the stones by going below the frost line with the concrete.
So you could either mortar them in or put them in the concrete wet. How accurate you're trying to get them in terms of having them all at the same level.
Yeah, so all that, I guess, I mean, I'm not, you know me, I'm not a builder or anything.
Who's going to do the work?
I have two friends who are builders. They're recently retired, but already deciding that it's too boring to be retired. So they're gonna do it at friend's price.
Nice.
Great.
Do you want to talk about the size?
Yeah, I've got a couple other things too.
Okay,
I guess the only other question would be, the deck now is tongue and groove, right? Tongue and groove boards,
And it's some kind of fur.
probably for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be doing that again or using a
That's
composite?
one of
or-
several questions I actually have for you guys.
That's why I asked, because
I'd like to use pressure treated if possible.
and so pressure treated and then have spaces, I mean,
To
like
leave little
standard.
spaces to little. Yeah. Will I go through them now then, since you've seen all the pictures? There's one, a picture of just, it's one token shot of some rock of, on the softening. I had everything painted summer of 2021. So this actually makes it look better than it is, in fact. But if you can put your hand up and touch it, it's surprising it's still there at all and hasn't fallen down. It's quite rotted and old and
What about the posts and these architectural details? Are they rotted?
not too bad.
So would you be able to reuse those?
I could, that's my first big question I have. Do I have to replace them as close as I can, or? Because to do them, I either have to reuse them, and I don't think everything is not rotted. The best part of them are. But my builder friends are not capable of that kind of work, I don't think. So, would it be at all possible to replace them with something else? I mean, I've looked, beyond the Home Depot, Lowe's, that kind of thing. Not everywhere, but I think enough to know that I can't find these, even in iron.
No,
or
you
some-
won't.
Yeah,
No.
It has to be made.
It's a custom.
so I'd have to hire somebody just to do that specifically.
Dave, do you know anyone who does that kind of work?
Yeah, I know somebody who would do it. It's probably worth finding out what the price would be. Nothing's cheap anymore, even if you buy it out of the catalog. So. The difference often isn't as great as you might think, just because. Prices have gone crazy for the big retailer. So I could give you a name anyway, somebody to call who'd just be happy to look at it because he'd be interested and
Appreciate that.
could build it if you wanted it done. Out of a number of kinds of woods. I mean, you might end up wanting to do it in something like mahogany that's pretty resistant to rot and all.
I think it would be worth exploring, because they are distinctive and it would be a shame to lose them.
Yeah, I was gonna also ask on the same question. I mean, I will certainly look into it. But I've got the picture here with all the electric boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
They're on
total
hold.
put in, so.
Yeah, they're on front of the house, like front porch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right.
Can you see on the front porch, there's a Doric column there. I mean, mine is a colonial Greek revival home.
Yep.
And the revival is basically the front porch with two columns. Would it all be possible to kind of do these things that we're talking about in the column, so I run the column all around the house? You know what I mean?
For the porch.
You mean replace the,
Replace these
Fretwork
things with
column.
Lattice, lattice, fretwork, yeah. Replace it with these.
I mean, they'd be a little smaller and thinner because of the space, but then that would bring that whole Greek thing all the way around the porch.
it would be appropriate. But what you have is distinctive, which is probably preferable, but
I'm just asking this.
yeah. But at least I always feel uncomfortable in asking people to spend a whole lot of money if there's a reasonable alternative.
Get some estimates, we can
So,
gauge the,
For both sides.
yeah,
yeah, and just see
what's involved,
Yeah.
depending on where you go.
I think I'd like to take a look at it myself. I am not remembering exactly all that detail and what it would look like with these columns instead. It's a little hard to judge from the photos.
You mean come out and look at the house itself?
Yeah, I'll just walk by. I don't, you know,
it would look more formidable. You know, it
And
would,
formal,
yeah, it would,
yes.
it looks very light this
Yeah,
way.
this is
It's,
like delicate to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
and it's hard to say with an 1848 house. I mean, that's sort of, you know, they were doing Carpenter Gothic, which is early Victorian, and they were doing, you know, as you can see, they were doing Greek revival. So it's hard to know whether this is original, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, that's the oldest I found is this picture here, so.
I would
And
suspect
like-
it's later.
Yeah.
From that design, but
Well, if looking at the other houses Fitch has built, there's nothing like that in any of them.
Right.
So that's a clue.
when was this picture taken and when was it?
We don't know. We don't. If February were still with us, we won't have an answer.
Okay, so
But
I'll
Fitch
look,
always had money trouble, so it could be the porches are original. And that these columns are original to the porches, but the porches weren't built when the house was.
oh, I see. what you
A lot of houses, I mean, every style of house in New England has had Victorian porches added to it. And they look like they fit now, but probably originally people thought, oh, it's pretty weird.
Did you have other questions, Ed?
I have one
For
more
them?
major question, yes.
Okay.
This has to do with the floor itself. I don't know if you can, how much you can tell, especially from the same picture with all the electric boxes. But it's a very narrow porch. It's not quite 2/3, it's about 6 feet wide. So 6 feet from out from the house. Whereas up toward the north end, there's a little bow in the house, so we got an 8-foot section. Probably a little more than a third. I'm wondering if there's any possibility I can extend the whole thing about 4 feet. That'd be the only major change I would really like. Just because, you know, I entertain people as, you know, if you put a table out there and 4 chairs, one set of chairs is inches away from the edge.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
I have a porch like that, so I know.
I mean, I think these were made to put your rocking chairs out in a row and just watch what's going, the horses going, buggies going by on the road.
And the
Well,
roof
that
is,
would definitely change the aesthetics.
the roof is fairly flat, right?
The roof is fairly flat and it can be easily extended as well.
So it wouldn't change the roof line per se.
Well, the fact that there's that bump out and the porch, it would seem to me that porch was added on at some point.
Well, no, the
That-
bump out is in the,
In the house itself.
Yeah,
In the
and the-
house, but the porch accommodated the bump out just by not going out. It
We think
just,
the house was built in 2 stages?
Well, I do, but I don't know anything about it really.
Okay. Because there's that bump in
Yeah, if you look
from,
if you come into the house on the inside, it's very clear that there's 2 sections of the house. And I did find a date of 1850 somewhere. I can't relocate it at the moment, but. So I just
Okay.
wondered if he didn't, because he had his daughter living there at first. And then once he couldn't afford to keep up with the mansion, he moved in there and set up his carpentry shop and everything. I still have his workbench in the basement.
oh, wow.
Original one, yeah. It's about 15 feet long.
judging by the fireplace and the oven
Mhm.
in the back part, I would say the back part's older.
The north side.
Yeah,
With the-
I would say
Yeah, where
that's
your
older.
kitchen is,
I would say, yeah, I was wondering if that was the original house.
and then they
And
built
then
the
all the
front.
rest.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that was there, that was quite a bit older. And that Fitch added the formal larger, you know, there's higher ceilings and everything else in
Right.
front, because that's what he did. He built those kinds of houses. I wouldn't be surprised if
And
the
it- and on the
1848, they
second
weren't building
floor-
that kind of,
Right, and the
fireplace.
Second floor, there are different, I mean, this first floor, they obviously redid the floor. So it's all one piece. But upstairs, it's 2 distinct things. There's a gap like this between that one side and the other. So
yeah, it's wild.
yeah,
Oh, so that's the porch. Wow.
the mystery thing though is it's still a full basement for the whole house. So he must have done something.
Like to dig.
I would say the thing to do with the porch, I mean, it seems to me if you're gonna spend all that money and redo the porch, you should get something that's useful. It would be good to see a scale drawing showing just from the, looking from the front porch, this view of what it would look like, you know, 4 feet wider compared to this. So if you could look at both of them and see whether it looked. And whether maybe, you know, 3 feet would work and look better.
Do we have the ability to do something like that digitally? I mean, somebody certainly is able to do that. I don't
Not
know.
me.
Somebody could do it.
I think someone can.
I think the technology is there.
Yeah, the question is how to get it
Who
done.
can drive the bus, so to speak.
Somebody who does drawing plans.
Any
You-
architectural office would have that ability now, but
Yeah,
Do you want
That's expensive.
Two-dimensional or 3?
for me, I think it would be enough just to see the 2 dimensions looking straight on, so you see the slope of
Does
the
it
roof and
help-
how far it comes out.
to look at the right here. Shit, I moved my computer in.
It's a lot like mine.
That is actually- Um,
There we go.
Yeah, if you looked at it from that direction to see what it would look like if these posts and the end of the porch were out here 4 feet further, if you could see that,
Understand.
you would know whether it looked right or not.
Free online software to do some real basic renderings. I suspect there is.
And your friends may, I mean, if they're retired, they're probably like me, they started out without all these programs and they might be able to draw something pretty quickly, because I think all you need is a stick drawing to show how it looks to have a much wider porch.
And you'd be able to tell just from that?
I think I would. For me, I'd be able to tell.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I think we definitely need to see that. I just think that is going to significantly change the house. And I think we need to make sure.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
You know, the landscape architecture program at UConn, they can do a lot of this kind of stuff easily. I wonder, like calling them to see if they might be able to have a student do it. They do a lot of these really cool, like, this is the street now, and this is the street. If you add street trees and you put some street art and it's really cool.
yeah, that's actually a good idea. If you present it as, you know, this is for the historic district, you're in the oldest district in town, and you've got the one name architect that we have designed your house, they might be interested.
And sometimes the students are looking for side work
Right.
and they'll do it for, much cheaper.
Maybe someone will have a project they need to know.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I really enjoy working with those students, so they're very creative.
Yeah, I think it's worth spending some time. This is a very important house. And I think we want to make sure we're doing something that doesn't really detract from the original design.
the other question is the floor that you brought up, because there are so many different kinds of floor. I don't know whether we probably should discuss that a little bit, just so you get some feedback.
So right now it's painted gray,
Standard porch gray.
porch gray.
And it's tongue and groove, so there's no way for water to go through, so.
Right.
You can get that in composites, You can get something that looks sort of like that. The surface isn't the same, but it's probably, it'd be very expensive, as would the fir. To replace the fir would cost,
Very pricey.
yeah, and then you'd have to, keep it painted and.
What is the composite, Dave? Is it AZAC or something?
There,
There
you can get, yeah, you can get
companies.
AZEK, but you can also get other kinds of composite.
Yeah.
AZEK's okay on a porch. It's a little bit slippery and it gets very hot. But if you have a
Uh-huh.
roof, that's probably okay.
Uh-huh, okay.
But it is the west side, so
Right.
So
I think it's a
Yeah,
late
so-
afternoon sun.
I probably wouldn't do AZEK myself, just for that reason, apart from the fact that it will cost more money than it should.
that I'd like to avoid if possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, besides your approval, I haven't got an estimate on what it would cost yet, so. That may also detract my. Funds are limited, so.
You know anybody who's milled tongue and grooves into 1x6 pressure treated? Or is that dangerous because it needs to expand and contract?
Oh, you mean to take pressure treated and turn it into,
Yeah, you can make it tongue and groove if you wanted.
right, you might even be able to get it. The problem with pressure treated lumber is it's southern pine,
Right. And
and it's
doesn't
the
hold.
most unstable
Right.
wood that we work with. It just goes all over the place.
Yeah, twists and.
And trying to do it with tongue and groove, I think would be sort of hopeless,
What would you suggest?
huh? I don't know. I don't think I would do pressure treated because the pressure treated actually doesn't hold up that well. And the splinters are bad. It's just low quality wood. Mahogany works well. I mean, you know, they're cutting down the rainforest, which is not good. But it's stable and very resistant, even more resistant than the old fir that you have. And the new fir wouldn't be what was here. I mean, this is probably, you know, 18,
Old growth.
you know, 90 or something, and you know,
Before they fed it
Yeah.
on stairways.
it's got 200 rings in it. Yeah,
Is cedar used for flooring much?
yeah, I'd still go with the mahogany. Cedar's soft, and cedar's not what it used to be because it's all grown on farms and they
Yeah.
harvest it so fast
Fast,
that it
okay.
just, it pretty much rots like pine, as far as I can tell.
Really?
Yeah.
Because.
We have mahogany porch and decks that have held up for over 20 years now. In good shape.
Yeah, it'll do another 20 easily, probably.
And has it grayed, as it's weathered, has it grayed?
It has, I've had it refinished with a protective coating at least once or twice.
But you'd probably, it would be like the pressure treated probably. It would be 5/4 by 6 nominal board with a little space in it, which wouldn't be like what you have here, but I'm not sure that doing this, unless you're in a, your Thomas Jefferson's house or something, makes sense because the maintenance, given the quality of the wood that it would be now, would probably be more than at least I would want to ask anybody to get into. So I don't think I'd have an objection for a deck that's probably just like yours.
Mhm.
And I think it would actually look better than an AZEK deck that mimics this, which it just looks like plastic.
Yeah, I don't want anything
Yeah,
slippery either. 'Cause
right, and it's very slippery.
Yeah.
You could skate on it.
My guests are my age, so very dangerous.
Yeah, ours is not slippery. Okay, well, some good things to think about there.
I'll do what I can on the things you told me to look into then. What would my next step be? Just to come back again and whatever I find?
Yeah, I think
Get your estimates to see what you can do.
Yeah, that may torpedo the whole thing anyway.
And the front porch, Ed, the front porch is still in good shape? Cause I remember when I was out there doing some other work that the front porch was in rough shape.
It's a
That's
very-
still rough shape? Okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Chuck Funk to do that,
Okay,
because that's very,
precise.
yeah,
Yeah,
but he's basically on his own now, so he's just so incredibly busy.
yeah, okay. A future
No,
project.
no, the painters managed to cover up a lot of stuff that
Yeah, yeah.
needs repair quite bad.
okay. So I guess in my thinking, the next step would be to come back with, if you find that it's feasible economically, to come back with that porch, I think is a big concern. So come back with what that's going to look like, as well as your decision on whether to use the columns or replace the existing fretwork. Is there a lot of moving parts there?
Think so. Dave would know that. So would Matt. Yeah, because I think these are all hand carved things that are just, placed in, nailed in.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, it's production work once you've set it up. So that's
Right.
the good thing,
The angles are all the same.
right?
Right.
So you just make, 50 of these and 50 of those and put them together. So it's not as bad as it looks. And as I said, the columns that you purchase now are quite expensive too. So there might not be much difference.
Yeah, I honestly confess that I look more at the style of them than the price of them. When I did go through.
It's always wise.
I'll go back. I'll go back and look at.
Do the fun part first.
Thank you, Ed. It's good to see you. No, you don't have to.
Coming.
You're welcome. You're welcome to stay.
However, we understand.
Ask you for, thing you suggested. Can I just find their?
You know what I'll do is I'll look it up right now and give it to you. But we can go on to the next agenda item.
Your email, so I'll send you
Oh, thank you.
my personal information. You can just find it on there.
I don't have a.
There's a pen right there, and
Oh,
Yeah, you can just write it. And I'll call him first, so he knows.
Dave, could you imagine rather than milling in so the lattices were flush, that
This is the
you
one that I worked.
face attach them?
And what I might have asked her is if-
Yeah.
I bet you it would save a lot of money.
Either as part of vegetable or,
So I don't know if these are milled, so they fit inside, one fits inside the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but there might be a half lap joint there, where you
Right.
take half.
Yeah, but could you do no lap? Could you just,
Or it could be just, three pieces,
Right.
one there and then they have two there and they might not even, this might not even be perfect.
because
The
you,
joint.
depending on, you reduce the amount of milling required and the cost would come down, obviously.
And it is kind of architecture, not necessarily landscape architecture, but they might have, who knows? It's worth asking.
is this the department?
Yeah.
So who are these now? Are they,
Well, I do a lot of work with the landscape architecture program at UConn, or not a lot, but some work. And they've done like visioning plans and they'll do, it's not architecture, but it's
Yeah.
what they can do is they can just kind of vision something digitally. Yeah. It's amazing what they can do.
Cool.
so is it a degree program?
Yeah, oh yeah, landscape architecture.
Okay,
Well,
maybe I did know that.
yeah,
They don't have an architecture program.
they don't.
Ed, it's good to see you.
There is something.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Hope we aren't too discouraging.
I knew I'd have some homework to do.
Well, we really appreciate you coming and running this by us. It's,
Thank you very much for letting me come.
Great house.
It is a great house.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
for sure it is, yeah.
When I was a kid,
Can't
on
say I'm
July
for it,
4th,
but I'd like to
we'd
bring it back to life.
we'd sit on this porch and our parents would light sparklers for us when we run around the side yard. I go way back. for
I
that.
think when the Myers,
Yeah, when Jody and Kent had it. Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
Sure. That was my 4th of July.
I'll see you again.
Yeah. See you over the fence.
Thank you. very, very much.
Take
Bye,
care.
Ed.
Bye.
Bye-bye, thanks again.
Sure.
Okay, let's move on to the signage.
Yes, so Michael
Hi.
Stankhoff is here. If I could just introduce it a little bit, it's sort of the a project that I think we gave a background before, but it's a project that we got a grant for. And so Michael and Derek have been working together, Derek July, our assistant town engineer, on the location of the sign. And I know it's not what we had discussed, but Michael's going to kind of talk about why the proposed change in location, and where it's
Mhm.
flexible.
Absolutely. So if it's all right with you, Madam Chair, I'll just lead in and explain some of
Please
the things
do.
we've been thinking
Yep.
about. The first thing I want to start off with is that when I put together the stuff for our packet, I put the sign very close to the corner as a potential location. But we're thinking just off the bat that it's not going to be anywhere near that close to the corner. So you can put that aside for a minute as I run through with a quick share screen of my Google Earth. So the area that we're talking about here, you can all see the maps that I have.
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. So when we were starting to think about where this sign would be, and when I came before you last month, we were thinking that we would put the map somewhere over in this area by
Right.
the bus stop, such that when people get off, they can orient themselves. But one of the things that we started talking about, both myself and Derek, as well as some of the comments Jolene made, is that this is not the only bus stop. This is the southbound bus stop. Across the street to the south, we have the northbound bus stop, which services anyone heading into Mansfield from the south, particularly the population that lives in Greater Windham. Now, when we started thinking about this, we got the idea in our head that, well, if we put the sign here over on by this bus stop, what we'll do is we'll catch anybody who's coming from the north, and they'll be able to see it if they're going to walk across the street. But anybody who is over by this bus stop is probably not going to be able to read the sign unless you got real good eyes and the street's not busy, and you may miss it entirely. This led us to the idea of, can we shift it across the street to a place where it's more likely to be seen by both groups? Now, we don't have numbers on how many people use both of these bus stops, but anecdotally, the northbound bus stop is used more frequently by populations heading north, and people get off here to walk, than the southbound bus stop is used. Now, it's simply anecdotal by several observations from people I've spoken to in town. But because of this, we really wanted to capture this population. Now, ideally, before I started working with Derek on what would be required for a DOT encroachment permit, we were thinking that if we could have it at roughly the corner, we would be able to catch both people if they crossed the street or went north. But I've since learned that this is not workable because of sight lines. You need to be able to maintain a good sight line for turns on that corner. So about the northmost we could go would be to come down and have it on this side of this light pole. Now, this would still capture the people who are coming north here, but it gives you more time if you're coming from the southbound bus stop in order to be able to notice that there's a sign there and then check it out if you want to. Now, we're also not married to the idea of where it would go on this side of the street. We've also noted that if we go down all the way to this bus stop, there's a place where you have a flat bank where you could put the sign basically in line with the rear of the stop, having it here tucked away against the vegetation that exists here. We recognize that the goal of the Historic District Commission with regards to this project is to preserve the view shed and preserve the historic feel of the area as you're coming in. So we completely understand and respect that, and we don't want to mess with that sight line if you think that having the sign approximately here would be too much. Let me just, so this is a potential location for the sign. If you think that this is workable, we could do that. Conversely, if you don't, we're more than happy to have it down here. But we think that either of these situations would be better in terms of having people actually notice and have the sign be usable than having it be over at the southbound bus stop. We are getting grant funding for this, the state's giving us money. If we're going to spend a bunch of money on sign design and fabrication, we want people to look at the sign and get some use out of it. So we recognize that we're proposing a bit of a change on the site plan, and I'm more than happy to return at our next meeting for a final approval with the new site plan location. And that is pretty much what we're thinking. I got the sign, and I believe I attached that in your packet as well. I got the new sign colors. So we're matching the colors that are coming out, that green and black that comes from the bus stops. That's the matching green and black. We have that, and we've sent that off to our sign fabricators, so we'll be able to match that perfectly. We're going to go with this blue with the Mansfield Center on the top. And so that's what I have to share with you today. I'd just love to hear your thoughts about what you would like to see, such that we can make sure that this is implemented in a way that we're not wasting the state's money by putting in a sign no one's going to see, and we're preserving the historic district.
Well,
Good
I mean,
question.
I can just give you my opinion and then the others can chime in, but if you're going to move it across the road, I would prefer to see it in the location closer to the to the bus stop. And I think visually that is preferable, and I think it's also more comfortable to get off the bus and read a sign there with some sort of privacy almost than standing out in the middle of rushing traffic, down further on 195. So from my perspective, that would be better. I did like it across the road, but if we're going to move it, I would suggest moving it there.
Yeah, I agree with that. It also, as you showed the picture, it seemed to me that the place that's most likely to draw attention to the sign is the general store.
Hmm.
And I'm almost wondering if it would be better to put it on the right-hand side as you're facing. I mean, I don't know who owns what, but because I think people from the general store might be the most likely of any group to come over and look at the sign.
We can do either of those. It really becomes a matter of, we're in a weird situation where we have very, very good numbers on the state's right-of-way in this area because of some recent projects we've done. And with a state encroachment permit, you have to stay 14 feet outside of their right-of-way traditionally, or it triggers some higher levels of review, which we're trying to avoid for something like a sign placement. Because the right-of-way, and you can kind of see it here, it's not perfect. But as you can see, the right-of-way kind of doesn't follow a straight line following the road. It kind of curves towards the general store. We have slightly more space on the north side. So it'll have to go slightly further back, and we're trying to make sure that we have enough space to actually get the stanchions in the ground. So if you'd prefer to do the south, that also works. That's also perfectly workable. People will see it as the bus drives in. So they'll be able to see it, and then people who are parked in the general store may walk over if they're walking about in the area. That also works.
Is this area where foliage has been taken down, trees have been taken down? Was this done photo before?
It's a very old photo.
It's
This
old.
is, I've
So-
got, this image capture is, yeah, this has been cleared out. Let me see if I've got more recent stuff.
I think it's been cleared.
Yeah, I think,
Is that
like,
my visual?
That's what
I
I'm
don't
thinking.
think it's.
you guys
so
drive it
overgrown.
more than I do, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I've got, I believe this was 2023 summer. I think this has been cleared now because as we
Yeah.
come, yeah, this should have been opened up. Because now the retaining wall is in, and Jolene and I have been looking at that. Let me. Unfortunately, we don't yet have our good winter aerials for this year that would show this. But if I just real quick log in. That's not my password. That's not my password.
I know where this goes.
There we go. They make us change our password every 3 months here, so I'm on my 5th password. But this one doesn't update. So let's see. So the most recent ortho maps we have, these are still from August.
Yeah.
So as of August was here, but this has been removed. This has been cleared out. So we do have access a little bit further back on that bank. So that should be doable if you would prefer to have it positioned to the south of the sign. And I think it'll still be seen by people who are getting off the bus there.
I think it makes more sense for people to see it, but also just to make it sort of part of the general store area rather than another sign
Yeah.
that's out by itself somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good
Absolutely.
point. Do
We
we need approval from the general store
So, yeah.
on their property?
So if it's on their property, yes, but if it's in the state right of way, no. So I can reach out to Andre to do that. When we were talking about potentially having it further north, I'd already reached out to Joshua's Trust about whether or not that could be workable. But
Right.
if we're not pursuing that, that's totally fine. I can reach out to Andre. I'll have to check the good survey maps to see if that's necessary. But what I can do for next month's meeting is I will come in with the revised site location, with the revised locational drawings. We're starting to work on our design as well. So we have any design preliminaries. I'll let you in on those. And then if I do need permission over here based on what our survey maps show, I will get that in writing and we can see if we could get a final approval then.
So, Jillian, would we then not move to accept the application until that is done?
I think it would,
What do you think?
your committee, Jen and Jolene.
I mean,
So we would need to advertise the public hearing and have the location nailed down about the second week of April.
That's very doable by.
So as long as we have the exact
I know.
site nailed down before we notice the public hearing, I think it's fine to go forward with the public hearing in April, but you know, that would be up to the commission to decide.
We can happily nail the exact site here and then get property owner permission if required, or acquire our DOT permit and get that paperwork started if that's needed.
So, couple of questions, kind of in the devil's advocate. I'm assuming the budget doesn't allow to have a sign on both bus stops. Is that right?
We've got enough for 2 signs. One is going down here, one is going up by the trailhead by the elementary school.
Got it, okay.
Uh-huh.
Since I live around the corner, I can tell you that, yes, more people use that bus stop than the one across the street. The people who use the bus stop tend to be local residents, right?
Mhm.
Once they've seen the sign, they know it. They don't need to, so the sign for bus riders would seem to me to have short-term utility rather than long-term utility. So question. The sidewalk extends along Route 89, right?
Yep.
Could we put it further up 89 out of the sight line? I don't know how far you need to go. People who are in cars, i.e. people who might live somewhere else in the town, wouldn't have reached speed yet, hopefully, and might see the sign if it were on 89, you know, 150 feet from the light or whatever it would need to be. Just thinking, I'm trying to think outside the box here.
I do appreciate the alternative location ideas. I do know that there are standards for signs that are supposed to be read by car, and this is not intended to meet those standards. Part of our big sign package has their certain sized lettering, the amount of information you're supposed to convey. You don't want signs to be a distraction. I
Got
think with what we're planning, this is going to be a bit too information dense, and we don't want its placement to risk distracting people on the road.
Okay. I'll withdraw my questions.
No, no, they're good questions. Thank you for asking them. It's a good point.
And Michael, the sign is directing you. So if you were to get off the bus and you were to read the sign, you could continue on to the sidewalk and have it take you where the sign, where is the sign directing you to go?
That's a great question. So
My
the
question.
sign, this is a very rough mock-up, but the idea here is that the sign shows you the entire area. It will mark our various cultural resources, both historic buildings as well as things like the library, the routes you can take to get there. And then there is an inset on this sign, which you can see here, which basically explains the new crossing at the elementary school. So if you're trying to cross over into Mansfield Hollow, how to safely do that. Because that's the second big part of this project, is ensuring people can safely cross that road and get into the park.
Gotcha.
So anyone, it's really a sign for pedestrian orientation and letting people know what's around them. And it's going to be kind of at this broader scope. If we just do it, and I zoom out here very quickly, I would say that this is probably the scale of the sign in terms of orienting people. You know, you'll have your "you are here," but we'll note general store, library, elementary school along this pathway. I'll make my lot numbers there so it's a little bit easier to see. So, and of course, it's not going to be on a background of the actual aerials. That would be very busy to read.
Right.
But if we just put it on something more simple, like the topo map, you can get the kind of detail level, though not detail specifics, that we would expect to see here. So maybe a little more zoomed in. I've got a very coarse ability to zoom. But the idea being that anyone who's down here would be at the southern end of this area. You'll be oriented from here up to here. The second design goes up over here.
Okay.
We got one down here and one over here.
I would be okay with the sign on either side of the bus stop, depending on what worked out
No.
for the
Do we
location.
know, is there planning to be parking in front of the new and improved general store?
I do believe so. Jolene, have you seen those plans? I believe they're supposed to be parking.
You're gonna have to come in.
Yeah, they have not submitted any change to the parking, but they will need to,
Because if that's a meeting ground,
right?
as it has been, having the sign catching somebody's eye who went to the general store, i.e. as we're looking at that picture to the right of the bus stop, might be slightly more advantageous.
So putting it here between this light post and the bus stop.
Yeah, and then somebody who parks in front of the store might walk over and look at it.
Yeah, that was my thought.
If that's
Yeah,
amenable,
as
Hoping
long as
that's
Andre agrees. I mean, you know, you have to figure out.
and I got to find out if the state
Yeah,
owns
keep
this
it-
or
yeah.
if
Understood.
Meditan owns it.
Understood.
So
A lot of moving parts.
municipal projects, right? So what
Yep.
I'll do is I'll make a new site plan that has the sign located here, do a quick mock-up of that that image placed in this at scale. And I'll get that to Jolene by the 2 weeks out before your next meeting, so that we can go forward with the public hearing with the correct location. And then we'll hear if anyone comes out from the public and go from there.
Thank you.
So then we need to move to accept your application at this point. Otherwise,
Yes, so I
We would
have
not be doing it.
prepared, yeah, so
Yeah.
I've prepared an example motion that could be used to receive the application and to schedule the public hearing. I got one for everybody.
Yeah. Jillian, the one thing is that you need to say the Mansfield Center Historic District, not Mansfield.
Oh, I'm
Yep.
sorry, I forgot a word. I apologize.
And maybe you want to change the location now to close, I don't know how you want to word it, close to the
Right,
You
bus
could say
stop,
Near the intersection.
near and not near the intersection.
No, near
That we're
the,
doing away with.
Well-
adjacent to the bus stop and the
On
general
the-
store.
Subject
Yeah.
to
And
Yeah,
everybody knows which
rights of
side it
ways and
is.
property ownership issues. Yeah.
Adjacent to the bus stop on the east side of Route 195. Is that where?
Yeah,
If we can,
Proc-
if we can pull it off.
to, um,
That's why I'm worried about being too specific because
Right,
Michael's got some more
right.
work to do. So how
So,
do we make this
so
fuzzy enough?
what if we
that-
say, on the east side of Route 195, between 534 Stores Road and the intersection of 89? Is
That
it-
gives- that gives-
no, I'm opposed to it being anywhere near that intersection.
I would say the specific language could say between the existing bus stop and lamp post, as that is the intended location, as long as I can make that work with DOT, or if not with DOT, the property owner.
but maybe for the purposes of doing this now, we need to be less specific and say adjacent to the bus stop on the east side of 195. That way, if the preferred
Right.
place doesn't work,
shot
we
that.
could just move it to the other side of the bus stop without messing up the public hearing.
yeah, I don't, for the public hearing. I mean, we,
Immediately adjacent could work.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
That's good.
all right. So somebody want to move that?
yes,
So-
I move to receive the application for a certificate of appropriateness of the town of Mansfield for sign placement within the Mansfield Center Historic District adjacent to the bus stop on the east side of Route 195, and to schedule the public hearing for Wednesday, April 24th, 2024 at 4 p.m.
Second.
Further discussion? Are we okay?
Okay,
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Michael, does that satisfy your,
Absolutely.
okay,
Perfect. I'll do the rest of the work.
Thank you.
good,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Okay, now I know number 5 is communications. If somebody would like to take over, I have a bus trip, not bus trip, a historic boat trip on Charleston Harbor at 6:15, and I'm gonna have to leave, I'm afraid. Yeah, out to Fort
I can-
Sumner and Revolutionary spots, et cetera.
fun.
Have fun.
Now, do we need to close the meeting out now while we have a
Um,
quorum?
Nope, I want to talk just really quickly about the 2 things on communications. Gail,
Okay,
you and I
okay.
can follow up. when you
Okay,
get Okay,
that sounds good. Thank you very much.
Enjoy your trip.
thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
So I just wanted to mention the letter that was in your packet that Gail sent to the owner who came to us. The number of the house escapes me at the moment, but I wanted to get your feelings. There has been no response from him. So there is an enforcement part of your charge in the statute, gives you enforcement authority. And maybe my suggestion at this point would be a quick letter to him, another letter saying, we were inviting you to the April meeting. We still have an air conditioning unit hanging out the front of the building.
Right. There's a pile of pavers by the front porch. I don't know if you've noticed it. I drive by there all
noticed
the time.
that. Yeah, I never drive by there.
Okay. The preformed concrete,
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
So he wants to
I'll have go
create
a
that.
little-
Is that for that sidewalk? you
Yeah,
wanted
he
to
wants
do?
to create that sidewalk that kind of goes to, you
Right.
know, out that side yard. I don't know that we would have any,
we don't have an issue with it, I don't think, even if we
yeah,
have authority over it.
right. So I guess the question is, do we want to proceed with another gentle reminder that, he needs to come in for some retroactive permits?
All right.
You know, we'd like to get some of that resolved. Would you be okay with another
Yeah,
letter from
I-
Gail? And do you think
Yeah.
that's appropriate at this point?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
He seemed. He was amorphous, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of,
He was like the tar baby.
Yeah.
You just couldn't,
it was hard to pin him down.
yeah.
Yeah.
The things kept changing over the course of
Correct.
20 minutes, or
Yes.
what have you.
Yep.
On the one hand, I mean, the place is a mess. And he doesn't seem to be in any great rush, so on the one hand, to presume
Mhm,
his schedule
mhm,
might be aggressive.
mhm.
On the other hand, waiting and hoping may be too passive.
Right, and, you know, I think we kind of took the, sort of waiting and hoping approach with, so okay, so.
But he's had a month.
Well, you could, I mean, you could write him and say, can you please update us
Mhm,
on your anticipated timeline?
okay,
Because that's the great unknown.
yeah,
Is because at the rate he's going, you know, he could say, oh, I'll have a plan in August.
yeah. Well, and that's fine moving forward, but I do think it's important to remind him that there were some
Right.
things that were done without the proper approvals that need to be addressed.
And we did
Yeah.
tell him what
Yeah, and
needed
we-
to be done.
And we spelled it out in the letter as well. So, and the letter will come from Gail.
Okay.
And I will work with her on the language, but I just wanted to give everybody an update that we had not heard back from him. We had taken this step to reach out and to provide him with the application and the statutes and all of that stuff. So, okay, so I will work with Gail on,
So
let's
let's assume he has the mini split unit sitting there on the front, hanging off the front ledger of his house. And he doesn't do anything. I mean, maybe that's too small of an issue. I have another question about the general store, because they have begun to board in a window opening on the back side of the structure, but you can see it from Center Street. Was that approved?
No, not as far as I know.
board in a window structure. Are you talking about in the foundation?
No, up on the second floor. they've been
Getting rid
repla-
of a window, basically.
they took out the old window. And then they put in new 2x4s around the perimeter and then one down the center. And that doesn't, to me, sound like, because they didn't do that for any other opening where they put in new windows. That sounds to
Also,
me like they're gonna close it.
yeah, that's not how you do a temporary closure. It's too much.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it must be that they're closing.
All
it
right,
down.
we will reach out to the contractor tomorrow and get an explanation as to that.
So,
And if there's a good reason, I'm not even sure that's important. You know, the windows on the back are sort of,
it raised the question in my mind, so what if somebody does something without coming forward to the town, coming forward to the commission? What do we do? Do we sit on our hands? What do we-
Right, so,
What
but there.
have we done? in the
Well,
past?
I don't know, have
have
you
to add
ever
this.
done yeah, I mean, I know,
Have
I
had
read
to.
it. I know I read that you have the ability to do it. But I haven't really dove
Yes,
into that anymore, then you can do it, but I don't know by what mechanism it's done.
it hasn't come up in the time that I've
No.
been on the commission.
Mhm.
Somebody's done something that there's been, later, there's been concern expressed.
There's been, there's been a couple of solar installations.
Right, that's a good example.
And we didn't pursue anything because we would have approved them.
Can't really
So.
deny
You-
them
you
those are
legally.
right.
mentioned a retroactive certificate,
Yeah,
so
I mean, that's, you know,
should we ask
maybe if-
people who've done solar to?
well, I think that was a decision that the historic district. So for instance, if I'm doing a zoning issue, right, and somebody comes in and they say, I want to cover a porch. And I say, what porch? You don't have a permit for a porch, right? I make them get a permit for the porch. And then I approve the cover at the same time. So I'm kind of going back in time and I'm saying, okay, well, you can't cover a porch that wasn't done correctly, so we're gonna make you do it correctly first. So, I mean, this is a little different because it's just aesthetic, right? The thing hanging off, the AC unit hanging off the front of the building is just not in what's appropriate
Right.
in that location. So, you
It makes
know,
it easier to correct.
it makes it easier to correct.
Yeah.
And we talked about screening, fencing, we talked about some different ideas with him. So, okay, so I'll work with Gail on a little bit of.
But I think pointing out,
There is a provision for action by the commission to prevent illegal acts, and the way we do it with zoning is that Jolene is sworn in as the commission's zoning agent, so she has to go before the clerk, and they designate her as the zoning enforcement official. So we'd have to kind of figure out, because what we don't want is volunteer commissions kind of
Right.
going out.
Right,
Right, that's just not, so we'd have to. And you can bring them to Superior Court and you can find them, you can do all sorts of things.
But under what, like, what is the,
It's
they
section-
can, but does it say or their designee?
The owner, well, I'd have to,
Yeah.
I'm just
It's
looking,
state
it's a
law.
dense, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll look
Yeah.
into enforcement, because
Yeah.
again, this has not come up
I've read through
before.
it, but it's.
and I don't know whether to put that in the letter or not, that.
I
you
mean,
know,
just-
We
I
do
mean,
have enforcement powers and
well, we could.
you can't just
say
ignore it.
something very broad, right, we could say something broad, you know, Connecticut General Statute 7
Yeah.
gives this commission enforcement abilities or something like that.
Yeah.
We won't be very specific, because frankly, we don't know yet. So, and maybe we can do some digging in some other towns and see how they're handling the enforcement for their commissions.
You know, hopefully it doesn't get to that, because that's just
Yeah,
Right,
so I
a waste
think-
of time and money for
Right,
everybody.
right.
Oh, yeah, well, this is what we do.
It's this way.
In addition to going to meetings, we do enforcement and it takes a lot of time, yeah. Yeah, and we never wanna find someone, we never wanna
Right.
be punitive. It's always the goal to bring someone into compliance, because when you start with this, you're liable to get appealed to Superior, or it's liable to go to court. Sometimes we have to lean and clean a property, you lean
Right.
it, and then if you lean it and then you end up with it, then it's the town's responsibility.
Right.
So that,
Not
yeah,
in
not in
your
this case,
situation,
but that
yeah.
it's complicated, so.
So I think we'll just start with another gentle
Yeah.
reminder
I would ask him,
for a time frame. Yep. Update us on anticipated time frame for future projects and to apply for appropriate permits.
I mean,
for-
we not only don't have a time frame,
It
we
said shall
have
be.
any number of plans for the same
Right,
project.
Right.
We don't even know where he's going with this, and
Right.
he didn't either.
right.
Jolene already has authority to enforce this, so shall be enforced by the zoning enforcement official or building inspector, but we'd have to look. You know, I'm reading this quickly, so I.
they don't pay you enough.
Add it to the list.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it
would-
says old building inspector,
Oh,
Yeah.
it does?
Yeah, it does, or.
Oh.
and they're,
Oh,
but because of the housing code, they're set up for that. I mean, they go through that all the
Yeah,
time.
well, yeah, we're set up for it too, but you know, and I think in this particular situation, it may be appropriate for the building inspector because to my knowledge, also building permits were not obtained for any of the work.
well, yeah, so
So-
there's,
So then it makes it a no-brainer.
Yeah, so I think Jennifer will work with Mike Ninto and figure out
I think we need to
what we're going.
turn the dial up one notch.
Would you write
About
one letter
10.
in that case, or are the departments separated? In other words, saying that, you know, you need building permits.
Yeah,
and-
I have
and that
not
involves-
mixed, I have not
should try to-
mixed
You don't think-
issues.
That makes sense.
I have not mixed issues. I try to stay very in my
So they would have
lane.
to write another letter,
So-
so you need a building.
But
permit.
what they would do is they need, say you need to come in for a building permit, and they're not gonna issue a building permit until there's a certificate of appropriateness, and
Right.
then they're doing the
So
work.
in some ways, having them
Do it.
lead forces the issue in the way I think we want, which is to get him to take the application for a certificate seriously.
Right.
And to come forward with something. And if he finally gets his act together to do that because he's got the permitting problem,
Right.
But he's not, he doesn't need like a zoning permit or a building permit to do some of the landscaping and driveway
Right.
work he's doing.
yeah,
So-
but
But
we don't.
Yeah, we have to-
Jurisdiction over that.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
have some for
The
the park,
fences we do,
for the fences,
fences, the
the
parking,
parking. Obviously,
like
the,
standards we would if
If
he's
it's a
still on
rental,
that, although I
right,
think
you
we
need
talked
parking.
about,
what standards?
he was talking about putting light
You need a
standards.
parking
out.
plan for a
Yeah,
rental.
I
Like
think we kind
exterior
of talked him out of
lighting.
that, but I don't know, because he kept changing his mind.
Yeah, I mean, I see his point of it's a long way from the door to the garage. So I do see,
Have you been by there at night?
no,
So he's got 4 big LED lights mounted to the front of the garage pointing at 195.
okay,
Can't miss it.
okay.
Yeah, he'll
Are they
get-
on or are they on all, well, you would know, but if
All
they're
the time.
on all the time or are they motion censored or?
They seem to be on.
Okay, all right, well, all right, so we will, I'll work with Gail, we'll draft up something and then we'll work on the enforcement piece separate. Yeah, so the only other thing under communications was the newsletter. It went out. I happened to see it in Ed's folder,
Yeah.
so I know he got
Yeah,
it.
it came in, Wednesday? Saturday, I think.
and you got it?
Yeah.
Yay,
Yep, so, you know, we'll.
and
if
he's
we
even
were to-
reading the town manager's newsletter, right?
So we'll do it quarterly.
Well, Shippers reader.
So if we do it quarterly, March.
Yeah, I think this
April,
is the
May,
best,
June,
this
July.
is the best this commission has been dealt with, and you guys are doing a great
Oh,
job.
Yeah.
thank
really,
you.
thank
It's
you.
Thank
never
you.
been this.
We've been
successful
very
before.
Busy.
These are-
You have been very busy after quite a lull, so
Yeah.
we appreciate your willingness to
And we
be
had to
this
work out a
busy.
few,
Easy.
we had to
Yeah,
work out a few kinks, because there were some staff changes and, but.
we're getting there.
We got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
We always say, if we make a mistake, we'll just fix it. That's our
Yeah, that's.
That's our departmental philosophy. Because sometimes it happens.
All right, so we don't have any public comments, so Mr. Vice Chair, we'd
Oh,
like to
that's
adjourn.
Yes. Well, I guess I'll move myself to the adjourn.
So, you want me to move?
Yeah.
Second or?
Yeah, it's too complicated.
Okay,
You can
second, yep,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned.